Hello everyone, lovely to be here tonight. My name's Marina Joy, and just to start by telling you a few things about myself, I studied a creative degree. Anybody else here study a creative degree? Okay, a few other people out there who made terrible life choices. But I couldn't get an agent, so I failed at that. I then decided to become a children's entertainer! Yay! It turns out I don't like children. Oh, so I failed at that. So now I am a stand-up comedian, and at this moment in time, it's not a career choice. It's just a desperate cry for help. Now, my first job after leaving uni was to work at a children's adventure park. Ooh! But if that responsibility wasn't enough, I also was put in charge of the jelly eating competition. Ooh. Any jelly athletes here? Any jelly athletes? Yeah, we've been training. I have been training to be a jelly athlete my whole life. Oh, it's going to be the Olympics one day. It will, it will. And this is basically where you have a plate full of jelly and you have to eat the jelly. But there is a catch, as there always is. You are not allowed to use your hands or a knife or a fork or your hands or your feet for that matter. You're going to have to just slurp the jelly up with your face. Now, the children love this, the parents not so much. But we did have one family who came along, and they were a very middle-class family, even more middle-class than me. I know, is it even possible? And they had a 7-year-old called Tabitha. And they put Tabitha in for the jelly eating competition. And halfway through the jelly eating competition, Tabitha's had enough and she just starts crying and she's like, eating the jelly, and goes, oh, Mama, the jelly, it's not organic. And Mama, it's from Tesco. But the parents are very unsympathetic and they're like, come on, Tabitha, the glory of the family is at stake. And I'm like, oh, she's 7, that's a lot of pressure. But, you know, they look at her plate full of jelly and they sort of have this sort of non-verbal kind of communication goes on. When they pick up her paper plate full of jelly, they sort of make it into a funnel and they pour the contents into her open, crying mouth. So the result is a little bit like, no more jelly, Mama. At this point, I am getting so stressed. I mean, technically, this is cheating. It goes against the jelly eating guidelines. The parents are not supposed to help the kids, are supposed to do it themselves. Secondly, that is a lot of jelly. If she chokes on all that jelly, that's a lot of paperwork. I don't want to have to do it. But the crowd are loving it. They're like, jelly, jelly, yeah, woo! And at the last second, Tabitha eats that last all-important morsel of jelly, and the glory of her family is at stake. And she goes home with a well-earned lollipop. Now, there was something else I did as a children's entertainer, because I know any parents out there, right? Look at your smug faces. I know that you love to give your children these gross, disgusting, terrible things called birthday parties. Where you hire some poor human to look after 40 sugar-infused children while you drink Prosecco and chat. Isn't it lovely? Isn't it lovely? So I've had to do these really fun things with the kids. Like I do, you know, maybe some games, we'd do face painting, and I'd also do some balloon modelling. Now, I had one small child come up to me and say, could I have a balloon sword, please, Miss Balloon Lady? And I was like, of course you can. So I made them a balloon sword. My brain has just forgotten how to make a balloon sword, which is probably for the best when I think about it. There you go. So it looks a little bit kind of like, I don't even know which way around it goes, but there we are, something like that. So it looks a little bit like this. Hey! And then this boy, he took the sword and he did the one thing with the balloon sword you're not really supposed to do. front of all those wealthy Prosecco drinking parents, he began to slowly turn it upside down. And in front of all of the parents, then slowly begins to make it go towards his crotch. And my face is just going, no. And he proceeds to just run around going, the lady's giving me a willy! Yay! Woo! He's having a great time, like, woo, like this. Whew. And I'm getting so stressed. And I know that I only have 3 options available to me at this point. I could just wait for the ground to just sort of swallow me up. Or I could run after him and go, come on, no, give it back, give the sword back, silly. And then he could turn around and go, the lady's touching my willy. Which is not a good look at a children's party, or ever really is, let's be honest. So I can't do that. So I do the only sensible thing I can do, and I go and join the parents and drink Prosecco instead. And that's how I felt as a children's entertainer. I'm just going to waft this out. But if that wasn't enough craziness in my life, during the 2020 lockdown, my parents decided to adopt, which was lovely. Only they decided to adopt a human, not a dog. Like, I mean, I was pretty disappointed. I kind of wanted the dog, to be honest. But my parents decided to adopt a little 4-year-old called Jack. He's lovely. But I was thinking about this, right? When you have family, right? You don't usually have to introduce yourself to your family. They're just kind of there and you just sort of muddle through, right? But like, imagine having a small child in front of you who's had a hard past, and you have to go, hey, I'm your new big sister. You're stuck with this. It's hard, you know, it's hard. But this little boy, this little Jack, he just ran into our house and he saw a picture of my grandma up on the wall. And he just turned around to my mum and just went, why did your mum die? And we were like, quite well, you see, no, well. And before we could say anything, he just ran around the house just screaming, Grandma's died! I was like, no, please, make it stop, this is too much! Goodness, so that was an interesting first impression. I don't even get any peace when I'm sitting on the toilet by myself, and I'm just sitting there doing my own business, like finally got some peace and quiet. And I just hear this voice from the other side of the door just going, Marina, would you like a biscuit? And I'm going, when I get off the toilet, I'll have a biscuit, all right, that's fine. I just look down and there's just a chocolate digestive being slid underneath the door. I mean, it has taste, I'll give him that. And then I thought to myself, I know this isn't very hygienic, but I actually am really hungry. So that is what happened to me during lockdown. I was reduced to willy balloons and eating biscuits off bathroom floors. And that's where I am in life right now.
Tell us, what is it like, and how has your life been both made poorer and made richer? And hopefully, knowing you will look at it from a positive perspective, but just take it, just answer how you feel, really.
I think it's a mixture. I think it's a shock to the system, for sure, because you have all these expectations and then someone rocks up and you're like, oh, that's unexpected, right? Okay, we're dealing with that now, great. A lot more nudity than I thought. I didn't think I'd have to say things such as like, can you please put your trousers on before you eat dinner? Kind of thought that was
original.
I thought that was a basic family, that was a basic human standard of behaviour, but apparently not.
No, I say that to my boyfriend all the time. So it's age neutral, that.
Yeah, I think it does make you realise, like, when I look at my mum, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, thank you for raising me, because, I mean, we all know I was the perfect child, but that aside, like, thank you for, like, raising me and then wanting to, like, do it all again with, like, someone else, because that is hard work. Yes. Worth it and beautiful, but also, like, it's kind of like, this is hilarious, but also, you can cry the next minute because something's happened and you're like, oh, I'm so stressed at the same time. So it's a whirlwind of emotions, but it's also really, like, worthwhile and very kind of like, oh, when you do something, you're like, I'm so proud.
Now, what is the most beautiful thing that you're very childlike, as I said, and curious and direct, and there's a certain kind of brutal honesty about you, which I have to say, as my friend, it's one of your best qualities.
Oh, thank you.
Well, also humor is fun too, but I think your brutal honesty is like top in my books. What what is the most wonderful thing that this young human being has brought into your life?
I think just when you think about it, maybe sometimes you might think, do I really want to read him a bedtime story, or do I really want to do this? But actually think about it, like, you're only like a child once, right? It's kind of precious. Like, it makes you realize, like, oh my goodness, like, life really is short, because, like, you're not going to be a kid forever. You're not going to want to do, whatever, like, hold my hand or whatever forever. Like, it makes you realize, like, oh my goodness, like, my childhood was so short.
Yes.
All about, it's over by the age of, like, what? 80. 25, 25, 30, 35. But it makes you realise, childhood's really short and precious. Like, you don't get to do that again, right? And then you always want to grow up as a kid, but actually when you're an adult, you want to revert back to being a kid. So, you just got to appreciate what you've got, really. Because, I'm sure at some point I'll be like, I wish that he... I had someone to tell off for nudity at the table or something, I'm going to miss that at some point. We'll be at uni, but really, you're so embarrassing.